Tottenham 1, Villarreal 0. A winning return to Tottenham to Champions League football. Doesn't tell the full story. I think there'll be some disappointed Tottenham fans with their inability to kill the game off. Some really good periods in the game for Villarreal as well. But we're going to break it down, get your views, get your opinions. Plus, what an epic night. What an epic night it has been in the Champions League as well. Plus, I think there might be some penalties going on in the Europa League, in League Cup football as well. I'm not familiar with these competitions. My club doesn't play in them. So I'm just enjoying it really tonight. But do me a favor, please, people, and hit that like button. Make sure you are subscribing. Make sure that bell notification button is turned on as well. By the way, I don't like it when there's football on at the same time as Champions League football. It's something about it drives me nuts. Villa are actually losing the penalty shootout as it stands right now. But yeah, smash the like button, please, people. Thank you, Delroy, for that. Now, look, what can I say about Tottenham tonight? I don't want to be too harsh, because if I say they were lucky, if I say they got away with it, if I say they weren't very good, you'll hear but you said Liverpool win like champions. Yes, because Liverpool have a pedigree of performing very well on a very consistent basis. Thus, the odd average performance with a win that they nick, you can say champions performance, because they're going to come good. With Tottenham, they don't have that pedigree, they don't have that background, they don't have that contemporary mid-modern or even long-term history to be able to say that. That being said, a win is the most important thing. And I think Champions League football may be a little more of a struggle for Thomas Frank than the Premier League, as this is the first time he has played European football, and he will soon realize that it's just different. And sometimes it's hard to articulate how and why it's different. There's just something about the rules are different, first and foremost. You don't get away with the same types of tactics. And you're also up against teams that sometimes I feel like they don't come to your ground and care about who you are. You're often playing other champions. You're playing other top teams from other leagues. And they don't sort of come with maybe the same fear factor that rivals might do or other teams in the UK might do. But it's played at a different tempo as well. And I thought that Villarreal gave a really good account of themselves tonight. That being said, I think Tottenham Hotspur will be happy to walk away with a clean sheet, because they did have a clean sheet in the end, with the 3 points. Very, very important way to begin your European campaign. Let's have a look at what some of your comments here. Delroy here says, Marseille were unlucky. Madrid looking a little disjointed this evening, but won't care. Second penalty was harsh. Yeah, the handball rule in European football is very, very harsh. And I then just not get, I was saying a moment ago about Thomas Frank, football in Europe is different. The handball rule is a prime example of where things are different. But yeah, I did think they were a little bit unlucky. Where are you? Where am I? I'm where I always am. That's a weird thing to say. JJ here says Spurs looked bad. See, I don't know. Bad might be a little bit of Villa missed another penalty. They're almost out. Unai Emery's, what a bad start to the season. Unai Emery has had to tell you. Actually, yeah, United better bring him in. Fuck me. But from Spurs looking bad, that might be an exaggeration. I don't know if I'd use the word bad for Tottenham tonight. They didn't capitalize on good when they had the ball in good areas, as an example. They were susceptible to the counter-attack. So what they were doing tonight, which I thought was quite good, but this is where it was going wrong for Tottenham. Both Bergvall and Sarr were making really good runs from midfield into attacking areas. The problem is, more often than not, what you would see is the ball not make it to them, the final ball being poor. Then what it was doing is leaving there was a vulnerability there. And the vulnerability was very much that if the ball got played in behind them because they were pushing forward, there was this big gap. What I would say is that when you look at the two centre-backs in Van der Ven and Romero, and you also look at Bentancur that played in the DM role, they were fantastic, because they did very, very well in the one-on-one defending in the isolated periods. And even right at the end, I'd give Van der Ven extra points for this. The way he gave that free kick away on the edge of the box, it was calculated. He had to make the foul, but he also knew that he couldn't do it. He also knew that he couldn't do it willy-nilly. He had to do it properly. And that's what I liked about it from my point of view and perspective. It was just the way he kind of, I'm going to bring you down, Okay, I'm going to foul you, but I'm going to do it in the right area at the right time and not give away a penalty. So defensively, I wouldn't say they were bad. So I want to be really, really fair about it. Was it good? No. Was it amazing? No, I'm not going to say any of that because that would be crazy. But I think bad might be a little bit of an oversimplification. I think what's going to go on here is there's a learning curve. There's an absolute learning curve for Thomas Frank in Europe. That is to be said. Villa had a stinker. Yeah, Villarreal had a stinker this season. Let's have a look at some. Villarreal are a top 6 team in La Liga, so some respect. Both were good. Spurs just made a moment count. Yeah, look, I think that's also part of it. Look, Man United beating Bilbao last year has probably given people a weird feeling of how bad these teams are. Spanish teams are just notoriously good in Europe, home and away. All their record, all the teams that we've all seen in the last 10, 20, 30 years play regularly in Europe have all got pretty good records by and large. And they're never easy to play. United beating Bilbao the way they did last year, if you really look back and review it, as much as I love those nights, it was more by luck than judgment because Bilbao are a better team. And Arsenal went there tonight, and a lot of Arsenal fans were predicting 5 and 6 nils because of how Manchester United won. There's another penalty shootout again on here. Millwall out. Palace knocked Millwall out on penalties. Grimsby are through, though. Come on, the Grimsby. I hope they go on and win it. I always like to get knocked out by the champions. That's what my dad taught me about the future champions. So, yeah, look, Villarreal are a good team. And Spurs did get the win, and that is all that really matters. Frank is getting a knack of winning games. Dino, that's very true. And they did win, and they did keep a clean sheet. And I think what's really important tonight, I think what I would say encouragingly about Tottenham tonight is this is the kind of game that Big Ange would have lost. They often lose these games that are really tight and really difficult, and they did a very good job to get over the line, no doubt about it. Can we just talk about the Juve Dortmund? What a game. Yeah, I didn't have that one on. It was one of the very few games I didn't have on tonight, and I saw it was 4-2 with 4 or 5 minutes to go, so I just stopped checking, and then I saw in one of the group chats, somebody said, Juve have scored 2 goals. So I stuck it on Discovery Plus quickly and rewound it a second. I couldn't believe it. That's Champions League football for you. I can't relate to what it feels like anymore. I've forgotten. But yeah, fantastic. It really is. I'm going to bring out Mo and Ash onto the show this evening to come and have their say on tonight's game and obviously the other matches as well for 10, 15 minutes. Let's move my screen, wrong one, over. Welcome back, gentlemen. Welcome back to the show. Champions League football is back. Happy days. Talking Tottenham, Jerome here, one of the Tottenham fans, said terrible game, but a win is a win. That's 3 points for the first Champions League game in ages. Not a great night, Mo, from Tottenham. They weren't scintillating, they weren't amazing, they weren't brilliant, but they did pick up the win. What was your thoughts?
Why I disagree with all of you? I thought Spurs were really good in the first game in the Champions League. I thought they created they got in a lot of good positions. I thought they played well. I thought Bentancur looked good. I think Kudus looked good. I don't know. I thought that Romero and they passed the ball well. They didn't panic. They didn't play frantic football. I disagree with you completely on this. I thought that's a solid win. Your first 3 points. It's a group stage. It's your first time back in the Champions League after playing Europa League. I thought it's a solid win in front of your fans. They weren't nervous. They were playing all right. I thought Richarlison movement was good. I thought Thomas Frank managed the game all right. They should have scored a couple, right? Kudus got in really good places. I actually think Tottenham fans should be very, very happy with this win. Very, very happy with this win, to be honest. Jed Spence with Xavi Simons, it looks like a partnership that is developing. Yeah, like just people that are saying they were poor, what are you expecting? Spurs were 50. These players coming from 17th or 16th last season in the league. So if you're talking about Spurs, yes, Europa League winners and everything, they won against Man United, but you would expect them to be more nervous in the first game in the Champions League back, under a new manager that never managed a game in the Champions League before, coming from a season that was horrific last season, and a lot of people said that you'll get beat and you get knocked out in the beginning of in the first round of the Champions League, starting with a win is always positive. What are we expecting Spurs to like come in and beat Real Madrid or Barcelona in the first game? No, I'm 3 points in the back for Spurs. And listen, I'm not someone who backs Spurs again, but this is a very, very solid win for Spurs. And some of the players you highlighted today, I thought that Bentancur looked solid. Like they look solid, and without an actual attacking midfielder on the pitch, they still created some chances, right? It doesn't matter. You can say, like someone's saying that one shot on target. Yes, but how many times Spurs got out of the press, went behind the Villarreal defense? Listen, I don't watch La Liga. I don't know how good Villarreal is. They might be good, they might be bad, they might be horrific. All I know is Spurs are horrific. That's all I know. Like all I know that Spurs are coming from a season that was
look,
terrible.
I agree. I agree with big parts of what you said. Like I was saying at the beginning of my stream, I wouldn't use the word bad, horrific, terrible. I wouldn't say brilliant. I just think they did. I think they did okay tonight, and they did okay. It was one of those. There isn't even much to talk about. That's what I said to you guys, like in the group chat. I was like, this won't be a long stream because there's very little to break down. I mean, the only real talking point in the game was should Xavi Simon have been sent off for a second yellow offense, because there wasn't even a real goal to talk about. Do you know what I mean? Like it was a good cross.
I get your point, but in the same point, what we need to talk about is that they played 5 competitive games this season, 1-4. Right? That is how composed the team is, keeping a clean sheet against City, keeping a clean sheet in the Champions League. That is what we need to talk about. Like 4 games under a new manager like Thomas Frank, coming from a horrific season, when you win your first game in the Champions League and you win 3 games out of 4 in the Premier League, that is what I'm talking about. I'm looking at the positives for Spurs. I'm not looking at the negatives. And people say, oh, they didn't play well. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. At the end, 4 wins out of 5 games is absolutely impressive by Tottenham Hotspur in the first 5 games. The 5 games, 4 clean sheets, if I'm not mistaken. 4 clean sheets in 5 games, scoring goals and getting the points, not draws. Like, as you said, they would have lost this under Ange Postecoglou. They would have lost this game.
I get what you're saying, because it's a similar sort of perspective that everyone's looking at, like the Liverpool game the other day, where they won 1-0. It wasn't a great performance, but they got a victory. So that's really the only thing that matters.
But that is a Champions win, and this one is terrible. It's horrific because it's Spurs, and people want to bash it on Spurs. Let's be honest. Thomas Frank is not an experienced manager in these big stages. He's playing in a big stage in the Champions League. It's the first time for him ever managing a game in the Champions League. It's a new format completely. You want to rack up the point. He went in, got the points. It doesn't matter how the goal is scored, right? Set piece, own goal. I thought that Spurs would score anyway. The amount of times Kudus got to the byline, the amount of times that Richarlison got in the 18, I thought Spurs would score, to be honest. Anyway, but I think it's an impressive start for Spurs in the Champions League. I didn't expect them to like, and I never thought in this game, I don't know about you guys, I didn't think that Villarreal would come back. Yeah, that one chance from Buchanan in the first half, right? But that's about it, to be honest. Like, there's not like a lot of trouble for Vicar. So they're solid defensively, Spurs, and they win games, and they find a way to win games. If Spurs continue like this, you'd back them to get to around the 16 or a quarterfinal. You would back them to get top 4, top 5 in the Premier League, because it looks like Thomas Frank is actually coming in with a plan, executing the plan, and it's working for him. 4 wins out of 5. Anyone else would have said, oh, what an impressive job by a coach. But you forget that these were 16th. They were awful last season, terrible. They were leaking goals last season.
No, listen. I think that's very true. I was thinking this earlier in the Arsenal game, and you know, it's a very difficult game away from home, opening game of the Champions League campaign. Emotions are high. The Bilbao fans made it hard. They win 2-0, 2 very good subs. And United, the Arsenal fans, on the show, they were positive. But I saw people in the comments who were like, yeah, I wanted a bit more, really. And I sometimes sit there, and I spoke about this a few times about United recently. I think there's too much fantasy land going on in the game nowadays. And what I mean by that is that even the best teams ever in Europe, think of the greatest club size you've seen in this competition in the last, just take 25 years, and go and look at their group stage games. Go and look at some of their away ties in the knockout stages. Lots of draws, lots of defeats, lots of narrow wins, lots of tough wins. It's a very hard competition in that regard. And sometimes I think as English fans, we see the name of a club and we disrespect it and we think, should be winning 2 or 3-0, man. This shouldn't be that difficult. I always slap them up on Football Manager. I always kill them when I'm on. I always kill them when I'm playing FIFA. I think sometimes we sort of don't realize you're playing in the Champions League. It is such a hard competition that a 2-0 win away at Bilbao, Spurs' first game back in the competition in a good few years, a manager that's never been there. Most of the players are inexperienced to it or haven't been there. And they get a win, a clean sheet. You're very right, Mo. You completely changed my outlook on this. And then you look at the wider picture. Narrowly beaten in the Super Cup final by the greatest PSG team of all time. Won 3 of their opening 4 league games. Another victory tonight. They're barely conceding goals. Just like Arsenal this season, 1 goal conceded in the Premier League and Champions League the whole time. I just think if you're a Spurs fan, maybe they're not as excited because when Ange came in and won those first sort of 8 or 9 of his first 10 games, it was swashbuckling and scintillating. And you're like, wow, look how good we're playing. I think you look a far more solid team now than looking back on those games. So I think Spurs fans should be, again, not blown away, not thinking, oh my God, we're peak Barcelona, but just quietly comfortable and enjoy it. Ash, how do you see it? You know, you support a tiny team. Well, you might see it differently to us.
Do you know what? I feel like that's probably the biggest compliment you can give Spurs.
Who do you support? I'm sorry.
Newcastle.
Oh, I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry.
I'm not. I'd rather support Newport right now. Jesus Christ, Man United.
But I don't know. I feel like saying that about Spurs is probably the best compliment you can give them, because it's like they're being a bit of a dark horse where people aren't over-egging them. Like, I thought they were going to have an absolute shocker this season with having Champions League, but for some reason, like with the players they've got in, like Kudus and everything, like I can honestly see them being an outside shot for Europa League football next season, or maybe even pushing top 6. But we'll have to see if they keep up the form with how it's going with Champions League. But it's definitely a very good game for them to have. Like, it might not be the best way that they wanted to play or win the game, but I would be happy with getting a 1-0 win to Villarreal at home. So yeah, I think in the grand scheme of things, they've definitely got to be happy with how they're doing, because compare it to the last season, it's a complete turnaround.
Can I tell you how I feel about this more? Okay, you know what? 4 games out of 5, Terry, and I think everyone now playing Spurs is not going to look at it as an easy game, right? You guys think that if Arsenal plays Spurs, if Chelsea plays Spurs, they're not going to look. This Thomas Frank guy has something has a plan, and he's solid, and he keeps clean sheets. It's not going to be easy for us to win against this team. They might not win against us, right? But it's going to be hard. Well, last season, and the majority of the team that played Spurs, they conceded 60 goals. 60 goals in the league only. And you're looking at the Spurs and like, they look solid. And I agree with that. This is 1-0 win, 2 clean sheets. And by the way, there's one more thing. Everyone said what Ash is saying. They're going to struggle 2 games a week, right? They played the majority of the players in the weekend. And now they played on Tuesday. They played the same players and they look fit. They're running until the last minute. And they're giving it all on the pitch. And now they have subs. Koulibaly coming off the bench. Brennan Johnson coming off the bench. I genuinely think this Spurs team looks solid, look like a composed team, a team that knows what you want to do in the game, and it's gonna be very hard to beat this season. I'm expecting that. It's too early to judge, but based on what we've seen, this team might not give the fans the frantic football, oh my God, the excitement, off your seat stuff, but it's gonna be very hard to beat for every team in the league.
I look at it a bit like this, and as you get older, you change, right? My dad always taught me in life, marry what you need and not what you want. He said it's much more sensible, right? And I'll give you an example. And this is a message to you young men and women. I suppose it works the other way, but I can only see it from a male to female perspective because that's my personal preference, which I want to check with you 3. Preferences are still allowed. That's not been cancelled yet, is it? I'm just checking because I don't know anymore. I don't know.
No idea anymore either.
Okay, well, we'll risk it. We'll risk it for a biscuit, right? So my preference is ladies. Yours might be men. Yours might be any. As long as it's legal, who cares? Right? Anyway, from my perspective, sometimes you're like, oh, she's a bit of a live wire. She's a little naughty. She's a little bit dangerous. She's a little bit, I dated a girl once who always used to get me and my mates into trouble when we were in clubs. When I was younger, I used to buzz off it. Now I couldn't think of anything worse. Equally, there are some partners, some male, some female, that you want to stay in every Friday night like a married couple, cuddle on the sofa. There's a time in my life where I thought that was the worst thing you could ever do. Now, heaven, I'll be in heaven, right? And I think football managers can sometimes be exactly like that. I think there is this element of Ange might give you that crazy excitement of, oh my God, this could be the greatest experience of my life. But it also comes with a downside: prison cells, broke, in debt, nose broke at weekends by bigger lads. Do you know what I mean? Where Thomas Frank, he is a little bit more slippers and pipe. He's a little bit more, let's get a Chinese takeaway and have a packet of chocolate obnobs on the sofa watching Strictly Come Dancing. And I'm telling you now, gentlemen, the latter is better for you. Maybe not the chocolate obnobs. They're a biscuit here in the UK, in case anyone's wondering. But great for dunking into tea. You can do them 5, 6, 7 times. They don't break at all. Hobnobs, the ones, bruv. But that's what I look at Thomas Frank and Big Ange. I think Thomas Frank is a sensible, pragmatic, loyal, safe option for Tottenham that will make them happier in the medium to long term. You may not get that first shot of it. You might not get that shot of excitement every week. But trust me, you ain't gonna end up in bad debt.
Do you know what the worst thing is?
You out. That's not a true story, by the way. I'm just giving an example. You know what I mean?
Do you know what the scariest thing about this whole thing to do with Spurs? It's going to get to January, and they've realised obviously Daniel Levy's gone, and I'm just scared of what that transfer window is going to look like. Like, are they going to start actually bringing in players and spending money? I mean, probably not, but.
But they brought Kudos, Kolomuane, they brought Paulinho, they brought Xavi Simmons. They're serious.
They did that with Daniel Levy still there, so now he's gone. I hope they start getting spoke about more, because maybe they'll end up throwing away points. But
where do we think? I know that you want to bring Kate. If you're looking at this team and how they play, do you think they can break into the top 4?
No.
Why? Can someone give me a substance? Why?
Well, I've said this, right? You look at the top 5, we'll say, from last season, all that they've done is strengthen. You say, yes.
Who's the 5th? I'm sorry.
Newcastle. Chelsea only overtook us on the last day because we bottled the last two game days. So if you say, if we're included in that, I don't think Spurs finishes above Newcastle.
No, I think they do.
So do I.
I think you're finished as a football club.
No, but I'm not the sort of person who would just say it. But I just think we've got a better team, man for man. I think we've got a better manager in Thomas Frank than you have in Eddie Howe. And I think
you couldn't even still have a straight face. I can see the smirk coming off the side of your mouth.
My face is completely straight, I promise you. And I agree with Terry's analogy. I think Thomas Frank is the pipe and slippers guy, and that's exactly what Spurs fans have wanted all last season. All we wanted was a guy that made us a normal team where we could go out and play like a normal football club and not worry.
A normal team. It's kind of strange. A normal team.
Do you know what I mean? Ange Postecoglou, you never knew what you was going to get, and it was always an absolute nightmare every game. But going to West Ham and winning comfortably 3-0 with no drama, just nice, comfortable win. And tonight, although the goal was incredibly lucky, I thought in the first half we warranted the lead. And, you know, like you say, Thomas Frank's never been in the Champions League. Players like Bergvall are inexperienced. And I think it's a really exciting time to be a Spurs fan. And the change from last season to this season is night and day. And it's nice to see.
Do you know why I think we'll definitely finish above you? Because there's this stat that I keep on saying that no one ever talks about. It's from January 2022. If you look at the points total from then, we would be 4th. So
I do get that, right? You've been excellent in that time. There is a caveat to that stat, though, isn't there? There's a caveat to that stat, which again, this is the thing with I like a stat.
Say the name, Terry.
What?
Say the name. There is a caveat. A certain number 9 left their club.
Well, no, that wasn't even what I was thinking. I wasn't even thinking about Isak, but that's true. Isak, I didn't even think of that. Ram, that's a new level. Thank you, Isak. But what you're not factoring, I remember once when Gunners were struggling. I remember an Arsenal fan was on this podcast, and I don't know the time he spent on this, but he definitely isn't sharing hobnobs with anybody, because you couldn't have a girlfriend and have this much time for the data analysis. You can't, right? Because he'll have a normal job, and then he was doing this, and I was like, you can't have a girlfriend.
Slacking off at work, Terry, and doing it while you're supposed to be
then
working.
you should be sacked. You should be sacked and never employed again. That's completely unacceptable. No, I'm sorry, I'm joking. I'm only joking either way. I mean, he came out with this stat that said, he said I don't know how he worked this out, but when Arsenal play with all of their squad being fit, up to one first team player out injured, he basically worked out that we have the most points. They have. I'm saying it like I'm him. He goes, we had the most points in the league. And I was like, okay, so explain that again. He goes, so when we have a fit squad, a fit first 11, our main first 11, we, in those games, compared to everybody else in that game week, we generate the most amount of points. And he went through it all, and it kind of made sense. And right at the end, I asked him a question. I said, the problem is with your little diagram is you're not considering all the injuries all the other teams had in those game weeks to know whether the data matches up. What if the team that you see we'd have got 3 points that week, and look, Newcastle only had 1. But what if Newcastle also had 4 injuries that week, as an example? So yes, it worked for Arsenal, but you have to factor in, as the late great Tony Stark said, you need all the variables before you can work out the equation. That's the issue with some of these stats I hear from people, is they're flawed. And the flaw in your stat is Thomas Frank wasn't managing Tottenham, Big Ange was. And that plays a huge factor. The same as, imagine it was your Newcastle team, okay, but you had Big Sam Allardyce or Steve Bruce still managing you, you would have not generated as many points, right?
Well,
wouldn't have meant the. So that's the only thing I throw in there as an outsider. Tony Stark is in Iron Man. Yes, that's a line.
The reason why
the late great Tony Stark.
The reason why I bring this stuff up is because so much I hear recently that Chelsea is like at a point where they should be like title challenging, and I just think back to the end of last season. Literally, if we didn't throw away our last 2 games, we would have been ahead of Chelsea. And all we've done is improve our squad. And I'm like, so what? And
you lost the best striker in the world and you improved.
Right? Should we really get into this? So we've changed a striker for a more experienced striker. They got the exact same non-penalty goals last season.
Newcastle are the pushovers of the league.
By the way, can I also
what is this?
Like literally,
what is going on? You're a
all this
pushover of the league. You were bullied to sell your best striker. What is this?
Listen, we
your
got
club, your
130 million.
owners got bullied to sell Alexander. You got bullied.
That's fine.
And you didn't get Ikitike, and you didn't get. You're literally overpaid.
In the last 3 seasons since we had him, he was injured 39 games. Isak.
Why were your fans begging him and just crying for him to stay there?
If he was so bad, the media onslaught and the attacks from Newcastle fans wouldn't. If you were really if you really thought Wissa coming in was better, you would have been like having a go at your club for not selling him sooner.
No, so I don't think Wiss is better. However, for the way Voltemada plays, he plays as a second striker. And I think him and the team and the way that we have more goals that will be spread through the team. Because if we have Vissa and Voltemada playing, I think it's very different. Listen, you all can say that, you all can say no, but what did last season show us?
It showed us. It showed us
seconds off your team.
It showed us on this. I'll come to you next round. What it showed us, this is a Tottenham stream. It showed us that Big Ange was massively holding back this pretty decent Spurs squad. And you may not be wrong about anything you've said about Newcastle, but you are not considering that this is a different Tottenham now, because they have a head coach who knows how to manage this group of players. Big Ange had them ripping their hamstrings every week, making them sprint from the halfway line. It's just incomparable, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, but I think because the point of what I was saying was, they were saying, you guys have been saying that Spurs will be ahead of us, but then just automatically think that Chelsea is going to be ahead of us as well. When, like I said, we were ahead of Chelsea.
Yeah, they're both better than you.
Matter of opinion. Doesn't mean it's fact.
Well, it was factually because they finished higher than you in the league and they have improved.
Yeah, like I said, the last 2 games we bottled the last 2 games. If we had the easiest run, I think like the bookies had us 93%.
That's not something to be proud of. That's your team's mentality. That's also a negative on your team. Like you.
But that's why I said
if you go
under Eddie Howe, we don't have that mentality. We have the mentality of winning.
But that's all. Well, can't we argue that Tottenham has that mentality now with the Europa League? Look, the Europa League.
What do you want me to do? Get out of the Carabao Cup as well? Tel can't do that.
By the way, can we also
hang on. Listen, I hate my football club at the moment, right? But barring Ram, who supports Liverpool, and obviously Mo, who supports Inter, Newcastle, don't chat to me about trophies, bro. I've lost more finals in the last decade than you've been in your club's history, bruv. So slow. Let's just slow down.
We lost the final to you.
Well, yeah. Like I'll defend. Well, I'll slag my team off a lot, but when
I
it
hate
comes
to be the person that says this, though. Can we talk about Tottenham?
Anton. Yes, let's get to Tottenham.
I actually want to say this as a Gooner, and I feel like that I have to be fair because I have to keep the same energy that I give to my club and the performances that I do for anybody else. I'm very impressed with what Thomas Frank has done with Tottenham. Like just watching today, I never at one point thought that Villarreal was scoring. Like they have changed like 180 degrees from what they were last year. It's absolutely crazy. Like I actually, upon review, like watching so far, I would say that I think that Tottenham got a good shot at being top 4. I do. I think that they've got the quality in attack. The Simmons, the Kudus, I think you could see even today, their quality on the ball is light years ahead of what they had last year. Like Brennan Johnson, for example, like they're way better than players like that. So yeah, like it's hard to take given that they just won a European trophy but yeah, I think they're gonna have a really solid year.
Can I ask Kate a question based on what Terry said about that Ange was holding them back? Because remember the year that Chelsea finished 10th. We know that in the first year of Ange Postecoglou, Spurs looked very good until the injuries and then they fell off. Do we think this Spurs team is kind of a replica of that Chelsea? I'm not saying winning the league, but that 16th position doesn't actually represent what the squad is about. And now Thomas Frank can be their Antonio Conte in bringing the best out of them. And now they go back to where they belong as a team. The back two look solid. The full backs, the midfield with Paulinho look good. The wingers with Kudus. Do we think that is a reflect or like the replicate of what Conte had that was Chelsea, which is one from 10th right away to winning the league? I'm not saying winning the league, but maybe 16th all the way to top 5, which what represent this Spurs squad.
Yeah, I think Spurs fans knew last year that we weren't as bad as the results we were getting. I mean, when you look at Van der Ven and Romero, they're 2 of the best centre-backs in the league for me. Spence and Porro, I know Porro gets a lot of hate, but they're playing brilliant. The introduction of Paulinho has made a massive difference, and you saw it when he came on tonight. He's such a good player. Bergvall is coming into his own. Look, and was without a shadow of a doubt holding back this team. His system wasn't working. A lot like Amorim. I don't think United's team are as bad as what they're making out. I think that the system doesn't suit. I don't think we're going to get into the top 4. I think we can get top 5 this year, which is huge considering where we were last year. But I think this guy is just a perfect fit for Spurs. When I watched Tottenham play Man City a couple of weeks ago and beat them, it was the best performance I've seen from Spurs since Pochettino. We just look so composed all over the park and balanced. And it's amazing the change that he's made already in just a matter of weeks. And I'm just excited to see what he can do. And now, obviously, with the fact that Daniel Levy's gone, if we can just add quality every window rather than buying 7 players of bad sort of average quality, just get 2 or 3 of good players like we've done with Paulinho, Kudus, Simmons. You know, if we can do that, then I think we're really going in the right direction. I can see Thomas Frank being a real long-term appointment at the club because he fits us like a glove, and I hope that he carries on bringing out the best in all these players because so far so good.
You know what, Kate? You know, sometimes you just don't need the big shiny hype job manager, the guy that all the tacticos love, the guy who's going to be the new Pep or the new Fergie. Sometimes it is just nice to take that more understated approach. Like someone earlier in the comments said, "What the hell was that analogy, Terry? What kind of weird analogy was that?" That just shows me how young you are, my friend. Because when you experience life and you get a bit older, you realize there's a difference between a dangerous partner and a very safe and sensible one. And the dangerous ones are more exciting. I'm not gonna lie. But the older you get, the less of that you can do. It's the truth. Emmanuel here says this is the same guy that said Zubi's goal doesn't count. Yeah, this is true.
What?
Ash is no. Yeah, Zubi meant. Ash said the other day. No, he didn't. He said the other day, you can't take Arsenal's 3-0 win seriously because Zubimendi got 2 goals and he barely scores normally.
Wasn't what I said. I said, let's do critical analysis because everyone said that performance, after that performance, Arsenal was going to win the league. And I said...
No one said that.
Oh, nobody said that.
Yes, they did. Okay, do you want me to get up like Gunadan's video and everything who did?
Gunadan will always say that.
Hang on, but was it people that have already predicted their club to win the league? Because that's different. No, nobody went from saying
I've seen the comments and stuff.
Yeah, but
because I was just saying, right, regardless of that, just think about: do you think Arsenal's still going to win the league if you take away the performance of Zubi scoring those goals? Because he's not
somebody else will score
that's like
those goals in another game.
But they didn't. What do you mean?
Yeah, but football don't work like that. Because what you say about tonight, had Spurs not scored an early goal, they might have scored 2. The things change when you score football matches. Games change, which is why that Donnarumma save for me on Sunday, and every single City fan that I've spoken to that isn't being everyone I've spoken to has agreed that goes in with City's vulnerabilities and confidence issues. The game could go in the other direction. That save was absolutely pivotal in the match as an example. Goals change the way things go. Yes, Zubimendi scores, but if he doesn't score that screamer, you literally scored straight after the halftime break anyway. That might have been your first goal, and then the floodgates might have opened. But because you went 2-0 up, Forest didn't then go all out attack. They didn't want to get beat up badly, so it made it harder for them to attack for the rest of that second half. I don't know. I think we start analyzing football that way. If, for instance, it was stinky performance, and they were winning it with a couple of screamers from the edge of the box, I think over time you could start looking at that and saying the performances here are going to catch up with them. But the performance overall as a team was really good.
Yeah. I agree. That's why I said about that. That's the whole point of what I was saying, was to view it as the whole team performance. That's why I didn't say anything about like Gyökeres. I wanted to be like, just view the whole team performance. I said they had a good performance.
Yeah, I don't think Liverpool should have made that Champions League when Alisson scored because he never scored the goal. He should have been knocked out.
Hang on a minute. You got to give your Carabao Cup back because you never win finals. It doesn't really count. It doesn't really count. You never normally win it. Jesus Christ. Yeah. I hear you. Look, I want to thank everyone who's tuned into the show this evening. It's only a slightly shorter stream because I've streamed 5 times today and my throat is fucked. I need a rest before tomorrow. I'm off to watch a little bit of Marching Powder. That's watch the movie Marching Powder, nothing else. So calm down in case my haters clip that up. Jimbo here says, spot on, Terry. The game changes after a goal. That's a fact. Of course it is. Of course it is. Like, do I think Spurs would have held on and the game would have ended 0-0 in the final against United if it wasn't? Would they have not conceded if it was 0-0? No. Scoring that goal the way Spurs did gave them something to fight and hold on for. It changes your mentality when you defend sometimes when you've got a goal. Everything changes when goals go in. I think we can't start rewriting that fact. But look, I want to say a big thank you to each and every single person that's tuned in. Thanks to my panel. This is going to redirect you to Judge Mo's channel. We're back tomorrow morning. I'll be live doing a phone-in show in the AM. Then it is going to be straight facts in the afternoon with Mo and the Don Hussam, plus reactions to the Champions League games in the evening as well. Until next time, people, take care. Goodbye. God bless. I'm just checking the redirect is on. Yes, it is. Take care, people. We'll see you all again soon. Peace.